Thanks, Chrissy. Welcome to another interesting day in the nickel business with the news this morning of BHP. I'll touch on that later on in the presentation. I've titled this "Grade is King." We think it's a great proxy for what sets Lunnon Metals apart, sets its assets apart, sets our portfolio apart, sets Kambalda apart from its peers. That's why we think it's not all doom and gloom. Hopefully you'll agree with me in 10 minutes or so. This is our dashboard. These are all characteristics, again, that we think sets us apart. Without a doubt, the value of the company is underpinned by our location in Kambalda. It is Australia's most prolific nickel belt. It is a premium location. It has an amazing discovery record. We'll touch on that in a moment. We have plenty of cash we raised last year before these recent headwinds that the nickel sector has faced. As at December 31, we had $27 million, so we can maintain our discovery effort. Obviously, it's prudent to trim the sales a little bit there and maybe just cut the expenditure, which we're looking at doing currently. We've grown our resource base now significantly. It's over 109,000 tonnes of nickel metal in the ground. It's because it's in Kambalda. It is high grade. Kambalda is renowned for its high grade nickel. It's renowned for producing a premium product, a premium concentrate that's highly sought after. That grade, that premium product, mean our assets have great, resilient project economics, which will stand us in good stead in these difficult times. And I mentioned Kambalda has this amazing discovery record. We've made a discovery. It's Baker. I'll take you through that in a minute. It also has some quite unique characteristics that set Baker apart from other assets in the nickel space. Foremost, it's a very short lead time to production. It's got a very low pre-production capital cost. That offers great flexibility for us and our shareholders to maintain leverage and optionality when this nickel sentiment turns around. So look, the elephant in the room is nickel price, apparently. I put this chart together just to highlight we don't think it's necessarily nickel price. It's very much the sentiment around the nickel price. When we listed back in June 2021, as this chart shows, the nickel price in Aussie and US dollars was pretty well the same as it is now. Nickel has been a lot lower before. It's obviously, people call it fickle nickel. It's a very cyclical metal. But back in June 2021, we listed with 39,000 nickel tonnes. Since that time, we've found 70,000 nickel tonnes at 2.7%. We've done a deal with our major shareholder, Goldfields, to acquire 2 more nickel mines, to have 4 historical nickel mines in Kambalda. We've pretty well finished the mining proposal for Baker. That's in with the department. We've completed a PFS and then declared first ore reserves at Baker. So we've done a lot. We've achieved a lot. But with the close yesterday, and I haven't looked today, but no doubt we'll be down again today with BHP's news. Yesterday, the market was telling us that our enterprise value last night was less than it was when we listed. It was $28 million when we listed, and last night it was just a tick under at $27.5 million. So the market's telling us that we're worth less. That's not about the price. This is not a bad price in Aussie dollar terms. Our assets are still economic. It's most definitely about sentiment, and that sentiment will turn. Obviously, again, elephant in the room with the news last night from BHP. Potentially, I think they've impaired their entire Nickel West business and considering potentially putting it all on care and maintenance. They are just putting it on care and maintenance. I find it hard to believe they'll have shut the entire integrated nickel business. Kambalda concentrator has been shut before. As I said, Kambalda produces a premium concentrate, has excellent metallurgical benefits. There's a shortage of good quality nickel concentrate for nickel smelters around the world. It is a highly sought after product. But at the end of the day, if BHP shuts the whole thing down and they're not using that Kambalda concentrator, for example, between ourselves and Wyloo, between us, we've got like 300,000 tonnes of nickel metal in the ground at 3%. That's way more than WMC had when it justified building the concentrator and the smelter in the first place back in the 1960s. So there's a lot of high-grade metal in the ground. It is economic at the current nickel price. It will be mined in the future. And if they don't want to use that concentrator, I'm sure a quick chat with Luca, we could kind of step in and take it off them if they're not valuing it. So Kambalda produces a premium concentrate. That's a great aspect of Kambalda. It has this amazing discovery record. When the mines were sold in the late 90s, early 2000s to Mincor, Panoramic, Peter mentioned he was in nickel before, and with Lanfranchi and Mincor, Those three junior miners, as they were, went on to find 440,000 tonnes of nickel metal after WMC sold those assets. That's because Kambalda has this amazing nickel endowment. Our 4 mines were already shut and had been shut for between 10 and 15 years before that exit by WMC. They got sold with the gold to Goldfields of South Africa. That's how they've ended up inside Lunnon Metals. They produced 250,000 nickel tonnes while they were operational, but they didn't see the last boom. They were sitting dormant inside Goldfields until we extricated them from Goldfields. So they haven't had the opportunity to have that second bigger bubble. There's no geological reason why we shouldn't have the same record as those 3 junior companies. And we think the discovery of Baker is testament to that. So we're going to zoom in on our southern project, which is on the south side of Lake Lefroy, the Foster Baker project. That's the project we listed on. I'm going to zoom in and look at Baker and Foster in a little bit more detail. So this area now has grown from 39,000 nickel tonnes when we listed to over 90,000 nickel tonnes at 3%. That's a significant endowment of nickel metal in the ground. Baker itself, on the right-hand side of this image, it's a 3-dimensional image of the famous Kambalda contact between the basalt and the Komatiite. Baker area is now 1 million tonnes at 3.3%. That was a brand new discovery by Lunnon Metals. And the square box at Baker is the area, a very small subset of our overall resource where we did our PFS in May last year. I'll touch on those economics and just how robust Baker is as a high-grade deposit. Over on the west side of that belt, we've got Foster. Foster is now 57,000 nickel tonnes. That's all accessible from the historical Foster decline, which is currently flooded. But in parallel to being really aggressive with our drilling, we've permitted and de-risked the assets in the Foster Baker belt very methodically. We're very proud of the geotechnical work, the metallurgical work, the mine design work that we've done. When we start Baker in the future, it will be without doubt probably the best studied, the best drilled ore body pre-development in Kambalda's history, bar none, daylight second. PFS is on foot for Foster to combine it with Baker, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We're going to zoom in now on that Baker deposit in the right-hand corner and look at that black box, the box that we studied in the May 2023 PFS. So look, this is a plan view of Baker. As I said, we've been pretty aggressive. We've drilled 25 kilometres of drilling into Baker, not because we think we're smart, it's because it's shallow. It's only 200 metres below surface. It's extremely close to an existing gold open pit, which is why the pre-production capital is so low to access Baker. Those red and green circles are the pierce points through the Baker deposit. That's all the drilling. They've been blown out to 20-metre diameter. Red is indicated, green is inferred. So where those red dots touch, that ore body's been drilled by 20 by 20 metre spacing. Where they overlap and merge, it's actually down to 20 by 10 and 10 by 10 metre spacing. And as you can see on the 3-dimensional image, it's been drilled like a pincushion. This is a really well understood, really well modelled, really well studied deposit. And we're really proud of how well we've de-risked Baker. It stands the company and the shareholders in excellent stead when this market turns. Unfortunately, we've drilled that out. We hope to get the resource upgraded to measured, given that drill density. This is a west-east section looking north. Unfortunately, we put these results out a couple of weeks ago on a very bad news day, probably similar to today, when WILU announced the pausing of their nickel operations, and BHP then followed up and announced the cessation of the concentrator in May or June. There's some pretty impressive grades there. I've put them in bold on the right-hand side so you can see them. I think we went down on average by the same percentage as the nickel grade of those drill holes. So they're about 5–10%. I think we went down 5–10% on the day. But as you can see, extremely well drilled. You can see we focused our drilling in an extremely high-grade area. It's really important to understand that metal is accessed very early in the mine life of Baker, and there'll be some spectacular jumbo headings when we get into that material. And as you can see, 12 metres at 7%, 6.3 at 7.8. We drilled 43 holes. 40 out of the 43 holes had greater than 1% intercepts. So I mentioned the PFS we did in May last year. Obviously, the PFS was done at a much higher nickel price. It was approximately $35,000 Aussie a tonne. We're sitting around $25,000 a tonne currently. As I said earlier, that's not a bad Aussie price for those who've been in the nickel business for a long time. they'll have seen a lot lower prices than that. And one of the reasons Kambalda has operated, as Chrissy said, for 58 years pretty continuously is because it is high grade. So those high grades, that premium concentrate, generate really robust economics. So even at today's nickel price, roughly about a third lower than it was in May, removes about $100 million from that NPV tax, pre-tax NPV of $164 million, drops to about $60 to $65 million. That's not bad for 24,000 nickel tonnes. It's only a quarter of our portfolio. And that's at today's nickel price that everyone keeps telling you it's doom and gloom, we've got to shut, we can't afford to run. Baker is still economic, and we're going to finish the Foster PFS, combine it with Baker, and we'd expect, even at today's nickel prices, to have some pretty impressive economics come back from that. Baker is open. Peter just mentioned open arrows everywhere. We've been quite clear about communicating that we wouldn't keep drilling these ore bodies down plunge. We'll do that when we get underground, both at Baker and Foster. So there's a natural hiatus in our drilling program at Foster Baker. So that's one end of the exploration spectrum, a really well understood, really well drilled ore body that's robust, even at the current nickel price. At the much earlier stage, almost a greenfield stage, this is our northern project. It's hard up against the Kambalda Dome. There's 340,000 tonnes of nickel metal being mined from the mines immediately adjacent to that green polygon. It's what we call Long South Gap. Unbelievably, there's not a single drill hole within that 6 square kilometres that's actually pierced that Kambalda contact I told you about. We've done 2D seismic. We've got some great targets. We tried to drill them. We had some drilling difficulties. We hit a big gold structure that was unknown. It was about a 50-metre wide quartz breccia. It's certainly the biggest quartz structure I've seen in my 30-odd years in Kambalda. We don't have the gold rights here, but those gold structures post-date nickel, so it's important to understand them. 3D seismic has been done. We've spent the money to do that, and that will be delivering a portfolio, we hope, and we expect, of really high-quality targets. Obviously, in this market with this sentiment, we'll look at those targets, we'll work out which ones we do, probably pick the shallower ones, no surprise, but that will be a big part of our future and ongoing discovery program. And then lastly, look just to really separate us from our peers and to make you realise that Kambalda isn't all just about nickel. In its own right, the Kambalda St Ives field is one of Australia's great gold camps. If the assets were in an Australian-listed gold company, you'd hear a lot more about the discovery success at St Ives. But since they bought the asset in 2001, Goldfields, our major shareholder, has really ramped up exploration. And they have turned it into a world-class asset. 15 million ounces have now been produced at St Ives. And our Foster Baker project, which is the project we listed on, sits between two of the great gold camps at St Ives. The Victory Defiance camp, where I first went underground in 1987 when I got off the boat from England, is over 3.5 million ounces of past gold production. To our immediate south, the Argo, Apollo, Hamlet, Athena area is also over 3.5 million ounces. Both of those camps sit within a few hundred metres of our tenement boundary. The Foster block was actually historically explored by WMC as a nickel belt with not a strong focus on gold. You're looking at max gold in whole. The bright colours, the reds and the magentas, are over 2 grams and 5 grams in the bedrock. So there's a lot of gold anomalism. It's always been a bit of a mystery why there isn't more gold at Foster. As I said, we've got a natural hiatus in our drill program for nickel at Foster until we get underground. So we've taken the opportunity with the sentiment in nickel to switch to a little bit of a focus on gold. We've got some very high priority, quite exciting gold projects. Watch the news flow in the coming months as those results come to hand. So we think that sets us apart. It's not all about nickel, but our assets in nickel are still economic. Kambalda is one of the most resilient camps, a resilient town. It's ridden the cycle of nickel many times, turned itself into one of Australia's best gold camps, and we're blessed to have assets in that location. Kambalda, as Chrissy said, like myself, is 58 years. I think we're both going strong. There's plenty to still like about Kambalda, and if you're interested in that opportunity and you like what you've seen, please come and see us at booth 120. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you for your time.
Wow.